And that system has depended on the well-trained and highly capable individuals that we have been deploying over the last 24 hours for precisely this kind of scenario, where our emergency plans have been built on the notion that if help is going to arrive, it is going to be some days before help will come. So we're in the initial phases going to have to solve the problems on our own, and here is the evidence of the work that we have been doing. First, power. As I said yesterday, our electrical services in the municipality of Anchorage are divided into 3 utilities. The old city center from Northern Lights to downtown and J-Bear is Municipal Light and Power. Municipal Light and Power initially lost power to the Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson and to downtown. J-Bear was restored quickly. We had a downtown outage for a good while. As of about 3 a.m., MLNP is reporting that all power in their service area has been restored. It does not mean that the work is over. There is a transformer located on the top of the J.C. Penney's building that will need some work. We're likely going to have to move a crane downtown to get to work on that in the coming hours and days. Chugach Electric services the portions of the municipality south of Northern Lights Boulevard. At one point they were reporting outages of nearly 6,000 customers. They are now reporting outages of less than 10 customers. For all intents and purposes, their system is now fully restored. Matanuska Electric Association serves our northern portions of the municipality, the northern communities. At one point they were reporting over 42,000 outages. 62% of their entire system was down. By 3 a.m. last night, they were reporting that they had outages affecting only 3 customers. By 4 a.m., everyone was back online. The bottom line is that the power system is now functionally up, stable, and we do not expect that to change, barring a significant weather event or another significant earthquake. The gas system throughout the municipality were serviced by NSTAR. NSTAR is working through their queue of reported gas leaks as people are returning to their offices this Saturday morning. There's an increasing volume of reported gas leaks and smells. They have something like 650 in the queue. They are working through them as fast as they can. They are not reporting that they have seen any significant breaks in the main line or any catastrophic failures. They are bringing in extra resources to the municipality to continue to work through that call stack, but functionally the system seems to be working well and we don't expect any significant deterioration. Water. As I reported yesterday, I had a brief update for the water system, which is serviced in the municipality largely by the Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility. I said we were at the time working 28 mainline breaks in the water system. I have a detailed update for you on the water and sewer systems. First, we're going to talk about sewer. The good news is the sewer system is functioning. We do not expect it to stop functioning. It seems to be in complete good repair. But we do have some watch list items. We addressed a sewer main plug that was cleared at Turnagain Boulevard and Northern Lights. The plug showed significant signs of concrete and dirt, which gives us some sense that there is a partial or total collapse in a sewer main somewhere. We are tracking that down. But again, we're expecting the sewer system to remain fully functional even where there may be some partial structural damage around town. On the water side, we're going to do this one geographically. We're going to begin with the best news, which is in Girdwood. The Girdwood water system was not compromised. There are no water quality issues in Girdwood at all. So where we previously issued an advisory that out of an abundance of caution you could consider boiling your water, that does not apply to Girdwood. There is no need to treat water that is coming out of the Girdwood system. In the Anchorage and northern communities, the water system is up and running, and we expect it to remain so. Yesterday I reported that we were working 28 reported mainline breaks. We are now down to about 10. It turned out many of those were false alarms. We believe we have something on the order of 40 customers who are without service. They are mainly located at Desiree Loop and Stacy Circle. We have crews on those sites, or they will be there shortly. Let's talk about water quality. Most of the water that comes in our system is sourced from Eklutna Lake. We do some supplementation with wells, and we increase that amount of supplementation overnight. But water quality is mostly an Eklutna Lake story. The earthquake shook the lake just like it shook everything else. So the coming into the Eklutna water treatment plant was significantly more turbid than usual. We have been able to address that situation. We are down to normal turbidity levels. The water quality of the water that is leaving the Eklutna plant is good. It is systems normal from all perspectives. The water system is now servicing, it's producing 27 million gallons of water a day. We are refilling our system reservoirs. The system looks good. Now, because of the mainline breaks that we are still investigating, the boil water advisory for portions of the municipality that are not on the Girdwood system remains in place. But again, that is entirely precautionary because there are breaks in the mainline system, or it appeared there are breaks in the mainline system. It is possible that the water could get contaminated. We have no evidence of contamination at all, and we remain very interested in that. So we will be doing some additional endpoint sampling across the day. We hope to have confirmatory evidence that the system has not been contaminated to report to you on tomorrow. So out of an abundance of caution, we are saying if you are concerned, you can boil the water. We do not suspect that it's contaminated, but that advisory is going to remain in place at least through tomorrow. In some areas of town, folks have reported discolored water. If you flush your pipes, we believe that issue should resolve. That is probably just a slight disruption to your own piping system. That's just discoloration that should resolve by flushing the pipes. We do have some issues with the Anchorage water utility needing to ensure access and steady power to some of the vaults they have that are located on the military base. We are working that situation with J-Bear and with Doyon Utilities, which has some contracts for some service utility work on base, and we believe that situation will be resolved soon. On communication side, we experienced some network issues yesterday that were mostly due to power fluctuations and to overuse. We believe that is largely resolved, and the communication lines are now functioning. The bottom line on the utility structure is that the power is up, the heat is on, the communication lines are opening, and for that you can thank your Alaska neighbors, the highly capable men and women who are serving us around town as linemen, plumbers, pipe fitters, and operating engineers. On the road system, yesterday we had a Seward Highway closure south of Anchorage proper on the way to Girdwood that was closing the road from Beluga to Indian, milepost 104 to 113. That has been resolved through the state efforts of the Department of Transportation. They cleared that. Seward Highway remains open. The additional update is that as we've had a number of aftershocks, there are still slides that are occurring on Seward Highway. It has not closed the highway, but DOT is actively monitoring that and working it in real time. Within the Anchorage Bowl itself, on Minnesota Highway, you've seen many pictures of the on-ramp collapses at Minnesota and International. The state DOT has signed that area. It is working that area. The site looks pretty different from the way it looked even yesterday at about 8 o'clock. Glen Highway. The Glen Highway will continue to be a challenge. I think it is going to be the biggest challenge as we step into the next phase of this response. This is the area of greatest concern. The update from the State Department of Transportation is that the Glen Highway northbound at the Eagle River Bridge is closed as they're doing some Eagle River Bridge work. A detour is available through Eagle River, but for those of us who live through Bridgepocalypse, we know how that story goes. It is going to take a very long time to transit through that area. If you do not need to be on the Glen Highway, you should not be on the Glen Highway. We are working it as hard as we can. Construction crews are actively on the site. We're working on some new approaches, some other workarounds, but we should expect that area to be challenging for some time. There will be further updates from the State Department of Transportation. At Mirror Lake and Thunderbird Falls, there is slope failure on both sides of the highway. Again, the additional aftershocks are still causing new damage to form in that area. The highway is open, but the detours there are very slow. So definitely, number one, if you don't need to be in that area, don't go there. And number two, if for some reason you have to be there, expect a lot of additional travel time. The State Department of Transportation is taking the lead on those Glen Highway issues. Their website is the source of most current information, and I would direct you there. The fire department responded to 4 working structure fires since the incident. 2 reports of structure collapse, but we have largely worked through those issues. We are at sort of a baseline level of activity for the fire department now. We're continuing to receive widespread reports of low-level damage to buildings, and we are actively assessing all of our critical infrastructure. We're hoping that it will resolve largely today. So far, so good. We are seeing, like everyone is in town, broken pictures. The City Hall kitchenette is a total disaster. There are plates everywhere, but nothing that is really going to take these facilities completely offline for a long time here. Going around the municipality, the hospitals remain open. Ted Stevens is operating. I reported previously that the municipal airport Merrill Field was operating in non-tower operations because there were concerns that there had been damage to the FAA tower. We now believe that the tower is fine. The tower is operating, so Merrill Field is back to normal operations. Let me give you a little bit of a fuller update about the port. We are actively assessing all of the issues at the port. We have seen some shoreside cracking, particularly in the remnant northern extension area. For those of you who are familiar with the port story, the northern extension area of the port is the remnant piece of the old port expansion project. It is sort of the unfinished liability that we are working through to remove. We're actively watching that to make sure that there is not a catastrophic failure, but the report now is that there has not been a catastrophic failure, and we do not expect there to be one. The port services about 50% of all the goods that come into Alaska. 85% of Alaskans get something over the port, and that is cement, fuel, and cargo. Starting with fuel, we were actively unloading a tanker when the earthquake occurred. Out of an abundance of caution, we ceased the unloading procedure before it completely ended, and we turned off the fuel valve yard to ensure that there are no leaks. We're still working through the valve yard testing. We are not aware of any problems, and we hope that will be coming back online soon. On the cargo side, we are actively assessing the structures. So far, the indications look good. In the normal course of things, both Tote and Matson arrive for weekend offloadings. We are currently expecting Tote to be able to offload tomorrow and Matson to be able to offload on Monday. We will give you any updates if that situation changes, but it appears that the port is operating in good repair. Schools remain closed through Tuesday. Municipal facilities are generally closed. The transit system, however, is operating. There is a detour on Route 20 near Carlick and 3rd Street, and we are operating that system for free today and tomorrow. Solid Waste Services has just been able to bring the Central Transfer Station back online, and the Anchorage Regional Landfill is open. But today is not really the day to go to the Central Transfer Station or the Anchorage Regional Landfill. If you can all avoid it, please don't go. We are keeping those open for mostly emergency operations. On sheltering, we announced last night that if you needed a place to go to stay warm, we had 3 options for you. In Girdwood, we would ask you to present yourself to the Girdwood Volunteer Fire Department. In Chugiak, in northern communities, we're sending you to the Chugiak Senior Center, and here in town, we sent folks to the downtown Egan Convention Center. I can give you an update on what occurred overnight. In Girdwood, nobody came to the fire center. We had no one presenting for sheltering needs. At the Chugiak Senior Center, we had 8 folks show up. The Red Cross is still working with them. We are assessing whether we need to keep that facility open tonight or whether the Red Cross and our resources will be able to come up with an alternative solution. We'll have more updates as the night progresses. At the Egan Center, which is aptly named for our first governor who saw us capably through the 1964 earthquake, his presence was available to us here in 2018 as well. We had 53 people show up at the Egan Center. They consisted of 9 families, which amounted to 36 of those 53 people, and 17 individuals who would probably otherwise have sought homeless overflow shelter. The Egan Center is not going to be available tonight because of pre-scheduled events, but we are actively working on securing alternate accommodations, and again, the Red Cross is working with the families that reported to the Egan Center to see if there are particularized arrangements that can be made for them. We will have more updates about sheltering as the day progresses. Chief Hetrick is going to provide you a weather update and a welfare update check. I'm going to next hand it off to Natasha Pineda, the director of the Anchorage Health Department. I started by saying that we have had many aftershocks since the initial event. A cursory review of the UAF Earthquake Center sites seems to say that more than a dozen of those aftershocks have been greater than a magnitude of 4, and 5 of them have been greater than a magnitude of 5. Every one of those in the normal course would have been a real, no kidding, Alaska earthquake. So for a lot of people in town, this event has not ended. The earth has not stopped shaking for the last 24 hours. And this is 2018. We are taking mental health seriously. This is an ongoing event for people. If people are twitchy, that is not all in your head. There is adrenaline pumping in your brain, And if you need to take care of yourself, we have some recommendations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Pineda, who will also give us an update about pets.
We are all shaken up over last night's Aftershocks. It's normal and to feel anxious, sad, or angry. Remember, whatever you're feeling right now is valid. If you're anxious, that's valid. If you're feeling helpless, that's valid too. All of us have different needs and different ways of coping with stress. Acknowledging those feelings is a really important first step. We have some basic tips that we wanted to share. As much as possible, you should stick to normal routines, so normal bedtimes, meal times, especially if you have children. They will feel more safe and secure if you stick to those regular scheduled activities. Carry out small practical tasks. Take slow, measured breaths if you're feeling anxious or uncomfortable. Those with pre-existing mental health issues, stick with your treatment plans, monitor yourself. If you notice something changing, make sure to reach out to your care provider. Seek social connections, check on your neighbors. Just make an extra effort to connect to those around you. Those of you who have children, adults, just some tips is to make sure to have open lines of communications. Your children and your teenagers may feel anxious. They may ask the same question repeatedly. It's okay to say that sometimes adults don't know why things happen, but it's important to let them continue to ask those questions. Do your best to be supportive, predictable, and loving. Encourage getting outside playing and keeping their bodies physically active. If you need support or referrals, 211 is available. Please call them. You can also call the Care Line for Alaska statewide 24/7 crisis line, which is free and confidential anytime. That number is 1-877-266-HELP. That's 24/7 available. You can also text 839-863 to text the crisis line. For those of you who have pets, we just wanted to acknowledge it's also important for those of you with pets to stick to normal routines with your animals, keep them safe and secure. Make sure that their licenses are on their collars. When you take them out for their walks, make sure you keep them leashed. I know there's been some animals have been loose, some pets have been loose, people have lost their pets. Check with animal control. They can be reached at 343-8122. You can also go to their website at muni.org/animals. There is a location where you can click on for lost pets that takes you step by step on how to locate them. In addition, you can go there during their open hours from 10 to 6 on the weekend and 11 to 7 on the weekdays. They're at 4711 Elmore Road. And if you find a lost pet, you can during closed hours, you can actually drop them off in a secure indoor night drop in the back of the animal control building. Now I'm going to hand it off to Chief Hattricks with the fire department.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you guys all here today. Just an update. I want to start with a huge thank you to all of the first responders. Everybody basically stepped up and took care of the community yesterday, and now that we're getting back to more normal operations, everybody's kind of relaxing a little bit. That's nice to see. Municipal workers have been phenomenal. Everybody showed up at the EOC yesterday, and the first stages of any emergency are a little chaotic, but everybody buckled down and got to work, and we did a really great job of taking care of the community, and that is ongoing. We have not determined how long the EOC will be up and running, but we will manage the emergency and the recovery until there's no more work to do. Not only our municipal workers here at the EOC, we also have representation from the American Red Cross and all of the utilities, NSTAR, MEA, CEA, MLNP, you name it, across the board, any groups that we needed to give us really good information and help build our plan to help respond to the emergency and to deal with the recovery have been here and have been very valuable and helped us do a great job to serve the community. And last but not least, the community. We are hearing great reports of people checking on their neighbors, looking out after each other, and we want that to continue for the next couple of days. The business community has been phenomenal. We know that if they could get open, they went in and got opening doors, and we expect to see business back to usual after people clean up. So thank you to everyone for that. So I'm going to give the weather report. We do have some concerns, some upcoming concerns after yesterday's earthquake. According to NOAA and the National Weather Service, we are expecting about noon today for winds to start. We'll see a temperature increase above freezing and then winds up to 40 miles an hour in the lower elevations, and then up to 65 miles an hour up on the hillside. We all know how to deal with wind, but after the quake and the aftershocks, we expect a lot of loose materials around, including loose trees and tree limbs. So be very cautious if you're outside during the wind, but keep an eye on things before the wind event happens. If you can get out and maybe batten down the hatches, that would be a really good idea. That also, as I mentioned earlier, includes a warm-up. We're probably going to move up to above freezing for a few hours today, so expect some melting. Then we're going to go back down to freezing, so it'll get slippery. This is one of those weekends, boy, stay home and stream Netflix or Amazon Prime or whichever your streaming service is. This would be a really good, let's get caught up on all the Christmas holiday shows. I think that would be a great thing to do this weekend. Take care of family and friends, keep everybody in the house and your pets, and just snuggle in, and lots of hot cocoa. Tomorrow, in preparation for tomorrow, it's a good thing this is all happening on a weekend, I think. We are expecting a snow event. It's going to start snowing tomorrow, and we're expecting anywhere from 4 to 8 inches on top of everything else. So yes, it is Alaska, it is wintertime. So do everything that you need to do to prepare your house for a significant wind or weather event. We don't expect blizzard conditions. It could be so much worse. This is going to be normal Alaska December winter weather, which is kind of nice to see. It took us a long time to get some snow. Now it looks like it's going to catch up with us. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Police Chief Justin Dahl to talk about APD.
Thanks, Chief. Again, my name is Justin Dahl. I'm the Chief of Police here in Anchorage. Just a quick update from the police department. We suffered some infrastructure damage like most people did around town to our facilities, but we remain 100% operational. There was no disruption to 911 or any of our emergency services. Today we are largely returning to a more normal posture. However, we are going to maintain for the next several days a much larger than normal patrol presence. So if you see a lot of extra police cars, it's just the department being visible and active in the community and making sure that everybody is feeling safe. And then we're obviously being responsive to any disruptions in traffic and doing the best we can to manage those traffic disruptions and keep people moving. I just want to reiterate what has already been said about the Glen Highway. That's probably the most challenging area right now when it comes to traffic. So we just encourage people, if you don't need to be traveling on the Glen Highway, don't. It's going to be that way for a little while. We do have those diversions set up. We're actively managing them like we did last night to ensure that during peak periods people are able to get back and forth as best they can. But those are all temporary measures. We know what disruption looks like on the Glen Highway. It's nothing new. And so just be aware of that, what that's going to be like. Those delays are going to continue for a while, so just be cognizant of that and avoid the area if you can. And with that, I'll turn it over either back to Kristen or Bill.
So we will take some questions from the room first, and then we'll turn to the phone for questions. So anyone in the room, please raise your hand. Yes.
Yes, hi. Question for Bill. Bill.
Please identify yourself.
Sure. Steve Gregory, iHeartMedia, ABC, Los Angeles. You talked about water and the situation there. Do you have any suggestions or advice for people that may have wells?
At this point, we are going to be doing our water quality testing. For those who are on wells, I will provide a fuller update at our next briefing. I think at this point we are not getting a lot of reports that there have been significant disruptions to the wells, and unlike a water main break, it presents this dissimilar risk of contamination. But that is a good question, and we'll have a fuller update for you at the next meeting.
Yes.
I actually have another question for you. Cassie Sherman with KTVA Channel 11. For the two house structures, the structures that were badly damaged, were they houses, homes?
I'm going to turn that question over to the Fire Chief, Jody Hedrick.
So, Jody Hedrick, Anchorage Fire Department. The two collapses were in residential structures. One was not a true collapse. It was actually part of the ceiling fell down. Actually, both of them were similar to that, so it wasn't major damage to the house itself. And there were no victims or injuries. Things were fine.
So there was no houses that lost a level or anything like that on the bottom?
Not that we're aware of. I know there have been a couple pictures out there that it looks like a couple of the second floor kind of shifted a little bit. We had those, but those were not reported to the fire department as structural collapse because the people involved were safe.
Sean McGuire with Channel 2. My question is, has there been any ability to assess damage in terms of dollar terms yet?
This is Bill Falsey, the municipal manager. The question is whether there's been an assessment of damage in terms of dollars. The answer is a partial yes. We are keeping close track of all of the municipalities' time and materials that we have put into this effort so far. We are beginning the phases of taking an assessment of what it will take to put some of our infrastructure back into the condition it was prior to the event. Those numbers are not ready for prime time and are still in very early stages.